Hello everyone. So we can start the session. This is anatomy series of the quiz we have started targeting FMG students. So this is the part 6 session. Those who have missed out the previous session, they can see the session. This is highly beneficial for the FMG aspirants and also the students of next aspirants and NEET PG aspirants. So let's start with the session now. Before starting the session, I would like to give you the brief introduction about the platform and about myself. Myself, Dr. Mona Lisa, I am anatomy educator on the Plus platform of Unacademy. I have done my MD anatomy from Armed Force Medical College, Pune, and I have got a total of 8 years of teaching experience for various competitive exams in the medical fields. My dear aspirants, I also want to tell you about the special class features. So when we are talking about the special class features, I want to brief you what are the features of special class. It's a feature where you can, it's a class session where you can interact live with the educator on the platform of Unacademy. Polls are conducted and you can interact with the learners. Raise your hand and get your doubts cleared. So your doubts will be clear right itself in the special live session and never miss a session. What does this mean? This means that you are not able to miss any of the session. And how you are not going to miss any of the session? Because for example, if you start seeing my session, you can follow me on the Unacademy platform. Thereafter, you will get the notification regarding all the plus course and also the special free platform sessions. Lecture notes. So once the session is finished, PDF lecture notes can be downloaded by you and anytime, anywhere read from the top educators of the medical field. So also I have completed, these are the previous free session. Those who have missed out, they can see this session. And for seeing the free session, what you have to do, firstly you have to download the Unacademy app, find your goal as NEET PG, and thereafter you have to either via my class link or you can search Dr. Mona Lisa special free session. You have to use the code ANAT10, unlock the session and be present for free live session. Now, after the free session, I would like to tell you about the benefits of joining Plus subscription. What are the benefits? So, when I am talking about the Plus subscription, it means you can access both the live and recorded version of the session of all 19 subjects. Of all 19 subjects in a very targeted way, where you can target your dream rank. Study from India's top educators in the medical field, compete in live tests and quizzes, stay on the device of your choice and assess more than 25,000 MCQs. So these 25,000 MCQs are made by the top educators of Unacademy platform who have got an experience of more than 8 to 10 years. Coming soon, what is there is the printed notes will be provided to you, which will help you to achieve your goal and it will be extremely beneficial. Now, I want to compare the benefits of Plus over that of the, I want to compare the benefit of Iconic over the Plus subscription. So, when I am talking about Iconic subscription, it means that two platforms that you can access, two best platform in the medical field, that is the Unacademy live session along with the Unacademy live session on the Plus course along with the Prep Ladder. So, you can have an access to all the clinical integrated essentials, video lectures of the dream team of Prep Ladder. QBank 3 can be accessed by you, active guidance system, tags, rapid revision, snapshots, Treasure and Dream Notes 2021. All these can be accessed by you. So, this is the benefit of Iconic subscription. Now, if I talk about the NEET PG and Iconic subscription, let me compare the NEET PG and Iconic subscription. So, either you can go for NEET PG Plus subscription or you can take Iconic subscription. That means the benefit of both Prep Ladder and the Plus subscription of Unacademy. So, what I suggest, the subscriptions are of 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If you are a student of first and second year, you can grab the opportunity of taking minimum of 3 or 4 years of subscription, because entire duration you get the benefit of cracking your university examination, and this is highly beneficial for targeting the next examination. You can use my code ANAT10 to get 10% discount. And I also want to tell, if you are the student of final year, pre-final, then take 2-3 years of subscription, 2 years subscription and just 1 year of subscription if you are in the interns. Now, highly updated QBank of the Unacademy is made by the top educators who have also given you the detailed explanation for each and every MCQs. 25,000 more clinical MCQs of all 19 subjects can be targeted by you. So, just use my code ANAT10, take the subscription and get 10% discount. Now, before starting today's anatomy quiz session, what I want you to tell, target NEET PG 2022 batch, clinical case discussion instrumentation batch, all these batches are taken by the top educators of Unacademy platform. So, what you can do, these batches are started on the 27th of October. So, get enrolled for this session. Use my code ANAT10 to get 10% discount and take the subscription, plus subscription of Unacademy. So yes, let's start with the session now. All the best to everyone. So I will quickly sum up the 15 MCQ session. Okay. So let's start with this session. So let's start with the first MCQ. So you will get 15 to 30 seconds for marking the correct answer. Which of the following is a extrinsic shoulder muscle? So of the following combination of muscles provided, deltoid, teres major, levator scapulae, teres minor and supraspinatus, which of the following is an extrinsic shoulder muscle? Question number 1, your time starts now. So which is the extrinsic shoulder muscle? So you can write your answers in the message box. Your time starts now. You will get 15 to 30 seconds for each and every MCQs. Okay, my dear aspirants, let me give the correct answer. The correct answer is levator scapulae. So C is absolutely correct answer. It belongs a group of extrinsic muscles of shoulder. Actually, it's important that you should know what is the intrinsic muscle and what is the extrinsic muscle. Extrinsic muscle, which is connecting the scapular shoulder region to the other region, and which is exactly connecting the bones forming the shoulder joint, that is the intrinsic muscle. So let me give you the list. All of you please write down. Extrinsic muscles of shoulder, and on one side you write on intrinsic muscles of shoulder. So this is the list. Extrinsic muscles of shoulder and that of intrinsic muscles of the shoulder. So in case of extrinsic muscles, the muscles are trapezius muscle, latissimus dorsi muscle, levator scapulae muscle, rhomboidus major and minor muscle, so only levator scapulae we have marked it the correct answer. Now coming to the list of intrinsic muscles. So when we are talking about intrinsic muscle, the important intrinsic muscles of shoulder joint are following, which is connecting the bones of the shoulder joint itself. The muscles are deltoid, teres major muscle, teres minor muscle, the muscles of rotator cuff, that is supraspinatus and infraspinatus, sits muscle, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor muscle, and subscapularis. Okay, so these are the muscles which is belong in the list of intrinsic muscles, subscapularis. So yes. So done with this, let's move on to the next, that is MCQ number 2. So this is the reason that C is the correct answer. Now let's move on to question number 2. Which of the following parts of humerus is marked correctly with the nerves with it is lying in the direct contact? Question number 2. Which of the following part of the humerus bone is correctly matched with the location of the nerve? So option A is distal end of humerus, radial nerve, surgical neck, musculocutaneous nerve, radial groove, musculocutaneous nerve, scapular notch, suprascapular nerve, medial epicondyle ulnar nerve. So my dear aspirants, I will again give you 15 to 30 seconds to mark the correct answer, and then I will come up with the explanation. So your time starts now. Mark the correct answer. Question number 2, mark the correct answer. 15 to 30 seconds. Which is the correct? Match the following here. Which is the correct one? So here the correct answer is option D, medial epicondyle ulnar nerve. And let me show you the important nerves and relations. So first thing is, the first option which was provided was suprascapular nerve. So see here, this is the suprascapular nerve, and as you can see, this suprascapular nerve is traversing through this notch. What is this notch? This notch is called as suprascapular notch. This is suprascapular notch. Here will be the ligament. Below that ligament, this is transverse scapular ligament will be lying here, and below that ligament suprascapular notch or foramen is lying there, and suprascapular nerve is traversing through suprascapular notch or foramen. So here scapular notch was written, so it is wrong. So this is wrong. Now moving on to the next, that is ulnar nerve. Can you see here, ulnar nerve is located behind the medial epicondyle. So this is the location of medial epicondyle, and the blue color highlighted nerve which is shown in this diagram, as you can see, it is clearly is traversing behind the medial epicondyle. So this is the right answer. So only we have got C as the correct option, D as the correct answer, medial epicondyle के posteriorly ulnar nerve is traversing. So D is the correct answer. Let's move on to the other images. So yes, this is again showing you the humerus bone, and here you can see this is the medial condyle, and here you can see that ulnar, here you can see the median nerve. See here, median nerve, you can say it is located in close association with the distal aspect of the humerus. So in the distal aspect of the humerus, as you can see, near to elbow joint. So medial condyle का मतलब क्या हुआ? It's the distal aspect of the humerus where you can see the nerve traversing. So I am just using blue color to highlight this nerve. This is the median nerve. So median nerve is related with the distal aspect of humerus. This is the region of cubital region where the important structures has been shown, and here we have got the relation of median nerve. So see here, distal aspect of the humerus, radial nerve is written, so this is wrong, this is wrong. Here should be the correct answer is the median nerve. Now coming to the other options. So see here, this is a case which is showing supra. So see here, this is the same thing, superior transverse scapular ligament, and you can see here the nerve which is traversing is suprascapular nerve, and this nerve is traversing below a ligament, and the ligament which is shown here, this is the ligament, this is suprascapular notch is covered by superior transverse scapular ligament. Okay, so yes, this is already we have seen, and other than that, what I want you to show. Okay, so here we are also telling about axillary. In this diagram you can see axillary nerve which is having the relation around the surgical neck of the, so we are talking about the relation around surgical neck of humerus. So here you can see clearly the relation around the surgical neck of axillary nerve is related around surgical neck of humerus. It is located to the surgical neck of humerus. Here you can see these are the branches of the axillary nerve. So clearly here surgical neck of humerus is related to musculocutaneous nerve is wrong, it is related to axillary nerve. Radial groove is related to musculocutaneous is wrong, it is related to radial nerve. So we have got D as the correct option. Let's move on to the next MCQ, that is MCQ number 3rd. Which of the following does not take origin from lateral epicondyle of humerus? Among the option provided, which of the following is not taking origin from the lateral epicondyle of humerus? Extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi ulnaris, abductor pulsus longus, supinator extensor digiti minimi. Question number 3, mark the correct answer. 5 options are there and you have to tell me the most correct answer among the options provided. 15 to 30 seconds for each every MCQs. Okay, so here the correct answer will be C, abductor pollicis longus. Actually, the other option which is provided is taking a part of its origin. One of its part is originating from lateral epicondyle, but not the abductor pollicis longus. I would like to show you a diagram where we can see abductor pollicis longus muscle or is in insertion. So when I am talking about abductor pollicis longus muscle, it's originating from the posterior surface of radius and ulna and also from interosseous membrane, and it is inserting onto the base of first metacarpal. So C is the correct answer. So my dear aspirants, see here, abductor pollicis longus muscle originates from the posterior aspect of radius, ulna and the membrane which is connecting the forearm bone, that is radius and ulna. Okay, forearm bone, that is radius and ulna. So here the muscle which is located, which is given in the option, that is extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor digitorum, extensor indicis and the supinated extensor digiti minimi, all these muscles which has been included here, at least one of its part is taking origin from the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. What does you mean by lateral epicondyle of humerus? That means the common extensor origin, but not the abductor pollicis longus. Let me show you an image of abductor pollicis longus muscle. Okay, so see here, this muscle which has been shown here is abductor pollicis longus. I am writing in short form, and if you will see here, it originates from posterior surface of radius and ulna bone and also the interosseous membrane which is connecting these two forearm bone. And in this diagram you can see this is the insertion point, and where it is inserting, my dear aspirants, where it is inserting. So it is inserting onto the first, it is inserting onto the base of first metacarpal. Now let's move on to the next, that is question number 4th. Which is correctly paired with its nerve supply? Which of the following is having a correct pairing with its nerve supply? Flexor pollicis longus is getting innervation from anterior interosseous nerve. Flexor digitorum profundus is getting innervation from anterior interosseous nerve. Extensor carpi radialis longus is getting innervation from posterior interosseous nerve. Brachioradialis from posterior interosseous nerve, abductor pollicis longus from anterior interosseous nerve. Question number 4, we have got 5 options and you have to give me the correct answer. Which of the following paired is correctly paired in this question number 4? The 15 to 30 seconds will be provided to you. Which is the correct pairing here? So yes, your time ends now. So flexor pollicis longus anterior interosseous nerve is the correct pairing which is provided. Anterior interosseous nerve is a deep branch from median nerve which is providing innervation to flexor pollicis longus muscle, that is the deep muscle of the forearm region. Flexor digitorum profundus by anterior interosseous nerve is not correct because it is not only provided by the branch of median nerve, it is also provided, it is lateral part is by branch from median nerve and the medial part is from ulnar nerve. It's an example of composite muscle, so B is wrong. It's an example of composite or hybrid muscle having dual nerve supply, both median and ulnar nerve. Extensor carpi radialis longus is also not the correct answer because it is not getting innervation from posterior interosseous nerve, that is a deep branch of radial nerve. It is getting innervation from directly from the radial nerve, so it is not correct. Brachioradialis from posterior interosseous nerve, again wrong, it is also getting innervation from radial nerve. All of you please note down, actually ECRL, extensor carpi radialis longus and brachioradialis, these are the two muscles of extensor compartment which is getting directly innervation from radial nerve. Rest all muscle is getting innervation via its branch, that is deep branch of radial nerve, that is posterior interosseous nerve. What about abductor pollicis longus? As I told you, abductor pollicis longus, it's a muscle of extensor compartment, not of anterior forearm muscle. So it is not getting innervation from anterior interosseous nerve but from pin nerve, posterior interosseous nerve. So got it? So E is also not correct. We have got A as the correct option. Same thing. And flexor pollicis longus is getting innervation from anterior introosseous nerve branch of median nerve. Let's move on to the next, that is question number 5th. Transverse arch of foot is maintained by which of the following? Whether the correct answer is flexor digitorum brevis, adductor hallucis, abductor hallucis brevis, or peroneus brevis. Question number 5th, which is the correct answer? Which of the following muscle is maintaining the transverse arch? Question number 5th. So yes, I am waiting for your answer and then we will come up with the explanation. Transverse arch. Actually, transverse arch is not a complete arch like medial and lateral longitudinal arch. And basically, if we talk about the transverse arch, it is actually important to know the support system. And exactly, if we talk about the transverse arch, it is not a complete arch. Okay, I have included a diagram also. When the two foot is close to each other, then only a complete transverse arch is formed. And most important muscle for forming the support system is, question number 5th, the answer is adductor hallucis muscle. Adductor hallucis muscle. So yes, I would like to give you a brief of transverse arch. When we are talking about transverse arch, at the posterior aspect of the metatarsal bone and that of the anterior aspect of the tarsus, we will see the arch is complete. But when we will see the arch in the middle aspect, it is same like a half dome. It becomes complete only when two sides foot will lie close to each other, then it becomes a full dome, otherwise just a half dome. The concavity of which is directed downwards and medially. Okay, so that when the medial border of the foot are placed in apposition, then only what I told you, the transverse arch is told to be a complete arch, and this is only complete when the medial border of the foot is lying in apposition. So the tarsal dome is a complete dome formed. Other than that, let's come on to the stability and the support system. Okay, so transverse arch, as we know, it is composed of 3 cuneiform. Please all of you note down the bones which is forming the transverse arch. It has been previously session we have included the MCQ about medial and lateral longitudinal arch, and we have discussed the bones forming that. So when I am talking about transverse arch, please note down it is formed by the 3 cuneiform, medial, lateral, intermediate cuneiform, the cuboid bone and the 5 metatarsal bones base. What is it? Base of 5 metatarsals, the 3 cuneiforms and the cuboid bone. Transverse arch is getting more strength, stability by the presence of intraosseous plantar and dorsal ligament, along with it also by the SOT muscles of 1st and 5th toe, spatially the transverse head of adductor hallucis. So please note down, this was given in the MCQ. So please note down, actually the basic and the most important strength and support given to the transverse arch is by the transverse head of adductor hallucis muscle. Not only this, it is also getting support from peroneus longus muscle. The tendon of peroneus longus muscle is stretching, the tendon is stretching across the arch, but we have to choose one. We will go with the adductor hallucis muscle, which is very important for the stability and the support. It is giving very important support to the transverse arch. So we have to pick one. We will go with the adductor hallucis muscle. My dear aspirants, let me show you a diagram of the medial, lateral and the transverse arch. So see here, in this diagram you can see both the proximal and the dorsal transverse arch. So this one is the distal transverse arch and this is the proximal transverse arch as shown by the lines. Here we can see medially we have got the more high arc and the arc which is required for the running, which is more of required for running, and it is a good marathon runner should have a medial longitudinal arch more concave. So yes, it is high arc, and the other stability is also given by the lateral longitudinal arch. So all the 4 arch has been shown here, the proximal and the distal transverse arch and that of medial and lateral longitudinal arch. The basic important support for the transverse arch is not only adductor hallucis but also intraosseous palmar dorsal ligament along with the peroneus longus muscle. Okay, so we have done with this. Let's move on to the next MCQ, that is MCQ number. Okay, so let's see, we will move on to MCQ number 6. So I think this is approximately clear to you that adductor helocyst should be the most important support for the maintenance of transverse arch. Let's move on to the 6th MCQ. Okay, phylum terminale, when we are talking about phylum terminale is chiefly composed of which of the following structure? Pia mater, dura mater, fibrous tissue and the neural tissue. 4 options are there: pia mater, dura mater, fibrous tissue and the neural tissue. According to you, which is the best answer? Phylum terminale is composed of. So actually 2 options will confuse you, but you have to choose the best answer. Question number 6, your time starts now. So I will provide you 15 to 30 seconds for the right answer. Your time begins now. Actually, my dear aspirants, the correct answer is fibrous tissue. Actually, we know that phylum terminale is modification of pia mater. We have studied that it's a modification of pia mater. But if the question is the major structure which is forming the composition for phylum terminale, we will go with fibrous tissue as the best answer. Also, slight detail of phylum terminale, the extension, what is phylum terminale internum, what is phylum terminale externum. So, let me just brief it out. Phylum terminale, what is phylum terminale? It's a modification of pia mater and it is a delicate filament. The total length, if I talk about the total length of phylum terminale, it is 20 centimeters, approximately 20 centimeters in the length, and it is prolonged downwards from the apex of the conus medullaris. Conus medullaris, what is conus medullaris? The lower tapering end of the spinal cord which is ending at the level of lower border of L1. From there, the extension of pia mater is phylum terminale. It is consist of an upper part and the lower part. What I told you, the upper part is called as, when I am talking about upper part, it is called as phylum terminale internum, and the lower part is called as phylum terminale externum. Phylum terminale internum and phylum terminale externum. Phylum terminale internum measure approximately 15 centimeters in the length and it reaches till the level of lower border of second sacral vertebrae. See here, it is reaching till the level of second sacral vertebrae, and in this is also asked in the MCQ that what is the extension of the sheath, okay, the extension of the dural sac sheath. So, it is also at the level of second sacral vertebrae. The lower part is called as phylum externum and it is approximately the lower part, which is approximately 5 centimeters. It is the downward extension from the apex of the tubular sheath and it is attached till the level of first segment of the coccyx bone. First segment of the coccyx bone. Further explanation, phylum terminale is consist mainly of fibrous tissue. This was the MCQ, and if I talk about, can you see here, continuous above with, so actually it's a modification of pia mater, but can you see continuous above with the pia mater, but the basic component on the constituent of phylum terminale is fibrous tissue. Adherent to its outer aspect, we have got few fiber brands of the nerve fibers. Actually, these nerve fibers brand which is accumulated on the outer aspect of phylum terminale, it's a rudimentary second, third coccygeal nerve. Further, this is also asked in MCQ that the central canal of spinal cord, that is malleolus spinalis, extend till which level in the phylum terminale. So, the extension is till the level of initial 5 to 6 centimeters of the phylum terminale. Got it? Now, I would like to show you a diagram for it. See here. So, let me just elongate this one. So, you can see here this strand like structure, okay, this strand, this is the conus medullaris, this one, this is the conus medullaris, and from conus medullaris a strand like structure going lower down, as you can see here, this is the phylum terminale, basically made of the fibrous tissue, okay. So, here you can see this is the conus medullaris, extent of conus medullaris is lower border of L1 and the extent of phylum terminale, as you can see, 20 centimeters. The internum is 15 centimeters till the dural sac S2 vertebra and till the coccyx vertebrae. So till the first coccyx vertebrae is the externum part. So done with this, let's move on to the next MCQ, that is MCQ number 7th. All the best to everyone for the 7th number MCQ. Okay, so your time starts now. Okay, before that I would like to read the MCQ for you. All statement considering femoral ring is correct except, question number 7, all the statement about femoral ring is correct except lacunar ligament forms its medial boundary, anterior border is formed by inguinal ligament, anterior border is formed by inguinal ligament, femoral artery forms its lateral boundary, its proximal end is closed by extraperitoneal fatty tissue that forms the femoral septum. It lies anterior to pectineus. It lies anterior to pectineus muscle. Question number 7, mark the correct answer. It lies anterior to pectineus. According to you, which is the wrong one? All statement is correct except which of the following is the wrong statement about femoral ring? Question number 7. Your time starts now, so I will provide you 15 to 30 seconds for marking the correct answer. So my dear aspirants, here the incorrect option is C. Femoral artery forms the lateral boundary. This is absolutely incorrect because we have got femoral vein on the lateral aspect. All other options, that lacunar ligament is forming medial boundary, is absolutely correct. Anteriorly formed by inguinal ligament, lies anterior to pectineus muscle, and proximally it's closed by extraperitoneal fatty tissue that is forming the femoral septum. So the femoral artery forming lateral boundary is absolutely incorrect. Let me show you a diagram for it so that the concepts will be clear to you. So firstly, let me give you the whole details of femoral ring. Femoral ring is closed by, as we have already discussed, it is closed by extraperitoneal fatty tissue forming femoral septum. Now, boundaries of femoral ring is what I told you, the femoral vein is forming the lateral boundary, not the femoral artery. So it includes a partition between femoral canal on the medial aspect and femoral vein on the lateral aspect. It's not the femoral artery, but it is the vein which is located laterally. Posteriorly, superior ramus of pubis is covered by pectineus muscle. Its medial border, if I talk about the medial border of the femoral ring, it's formed by the lacunar ligament, which is an extension from inguinal ligament. Lacunar ligament is forming the medial boundary for the femoral ring. Anterior boundary is formed by the medial part of inguinal ligament. Now, so here in this diagram, you can clearly see that this is the lacunar ligament. Let me use green color for this. This is the triangular ligament which you are seeing is the lacunar ligament. Yeah, so this ligament is the lacunar ligament which is forming the medial boundary for the femoral ring. On its lateral aspect, the structure which you can see is the femoral vein. So femoral vein is forming the lateral boundary. Pectineal structure, pectineus muscle and pectineal structure is also contained here. Posteriorly, anterior lies the inguinal ligament. Anteriorly, you can see here is the inguinal ligament which is extending and forming the anterior aspect. So this is the whole details which you have seen for the femoral ring. So only we have seen that in femoral ring, medially the ligament which is located is the lacunar ligament. So when the surgeon wants to go for the treatment of strangulated hernia, we have got femoral vessels on the lateral aspect. Femoral vein is laterally, and more lateral to femoral vein is the femoral artery. So if the surgeon goes on cutting the lateral aspect, it's not possible. So he have to cut the medial aspect, that is lacunar ligament. At times on the lacunar ligament there is a relation of obturator artery, that is abnormal obturator artery, which can lead to bleeding if the surgeons blindly go for the cutting of lacunar ligament in case of strangulated femoral hernia. Okay, so done with this, let's move on to the next, that is question number 8. Okay, let's move on to question number 8. Thank you. So, okay. So, yes. Which statement considering femoral artery is correct? Which statement about the femoral artery is correct? It enters femoral canal, it enters the adductor canal, it passes dorsal to inguinal ligament, it gives rise to inferior epigastric artery, it passes through the obturator canal. So, my dear aspirants, 15 to 30 seconds will be provided to you for giving the right answer. Your time starts now. Mark the correct answer. Which is the correct statement about femoral artery? Question number 8. The correct answer is B. It enters the adductor canal. Actually, femoral artery will traverse through the adductor canal and then it will reach the popliteal region, forming popliteal artery. So, this is how it happens. Actually, so I will rule out the incorrect options. Why the other options are not correct? It enters into femoral canal is absolutely incorrect. Femoral canal is the medial most part of the femoral sheath, and basically it contains inguinal lymph node. What does it contains? It contains inguinal, that is deep inguinal lymph node, that is called as lymph node of Cloquet. It passes dorsal to inguinal, and few of you must get confused because we always tell that the external iliac artery passes through the posterior to inguinal ligament and then continues at femoral artery. So, exactly this is not the correct answer. When we are talking about femoral artery, it enters the thigh. When we are talking, it is entering the thigh behind the inguinal ligament and then the continuation of the external iliac artery. Actually, the continuation of external iliac artery will then form the femoral artery. Exact location of, if I talk about exact location in terms of surface anatomy, it lies midway between anterior superior iliac spine and pubic symphysis. So, if we have to choose the best answer, we will go with B as the correct, not the C one, but it can confuse you, but C is not the correct. It gives rise to inferior epigastric artery is absolutely wrong. It is a branch of external iliac artery. It passes the obturator canal is absolutely wrong. Why? Which artery passes through obturator canal? Obturator artery, which is a branch of anterior division of internal iliac artery. Obturator artery is a branch of anterior division of internal iliac artery. Now, let us move on to the next, that is question number 9. Before that, femoral artery is the chief artery of lower limb and we know that it is a continuation of external iliac artery. It bisects the femoral triangle at the level of apex and thereafter it enters to the adductor canal deep to sartorius muscle, where the sartorius muscle is forming the roof for the adductor region and then reaches the popliteal region. See here, this is exactly the femoral artery detail. External iliac artery, actually external iliac artery, this will be the external iliac artery, and external iliac artery will traverse below the inguinal ligament. So, it is traversing below this inguinal ligament and then this artery is formed, that is the femoral artery. Okay. And in the apex, what is this? This is the apex of the femoral triangle. It will traverse lower down and then reaches the adductor region, femoral artery. So, here if I highlight this diagram, you can see here, this is the femoral artery. It will traverse lower down in the adductor canal and ultimately it will reach the popliteal region, forming popliteal artery lower down. So, yes, let us move on to the next, that is question number 9. So, yes, can we move on to question number 9? All the best. No, this was the 7th one. So, we have to move, no, this was the 8th one. Let us move on to question number 9. All statement considering internal pudendal artery is correct except which of the following statement about internal pudendal artery is not correct? Question number 9th. It does not supply any structure in the gluteal region. It passes to the perineum with the pudendal nerve. It supplies the external genitalias. It crosses the ischial tuberosity. It re-enters the pelvis through lesser sciatic foramen. So, which of the following statement is incorrect statement about internal pudendal artery? Your time starts now. Your time starts now. Question number 9. Mark the correct answer, which is the incorrect option. So, 15 seconds and mark the correct answer. So, my dear aspirants, the correct answer for here will be D. It crosses the ischial tuberosity is wrong. It crosses the ischial spine dorsal aspect, but not the tuberosity, dear. Not the tuberosity. So, this is the wrong statement about internal pudendal artery. All other option which is mentioned here is absolutely correct. Yes, it does not give any arterial supply to the gluteal region is absolutely correct statement. It passes to the perineum along with the pudendal nerve is correct. It supplies external genitalias is correct, and it re-enters the lesser sciatic foramen is also correct. This is about the course of the internal pudendal artery. Now, let me give you certain brief about the internal pudendal artery. What are the points which you should not miss out about internal pudendal artery? Internal pudendal artery is leaving the gluteal region by crossing the ischial spine, and thereafter, that means if it crosses the ischial spine, it re-enters the pelvis, and the way is via, the route is via lesser sciatic foramen. So, this was the correct statement. The artery passes to the perineum along with the pudendal nerve, and what it does? It is the nerve of the perineum. It supplies the external genitalias and also the muscles of pelvic region. It is not giving any kind of innervation to the gluteal region. So, this is also the correct statement. I would like to show you a diagram where you can trace the internal pudendal artery. See here, the first thing is the origin. So, see here, this is the common iliac artery dividing into external and internal iliac artery. So, here this is the external iliac artery, and here this is the internal iliac artery. The branch of internal iliac artery is anterior division is internal pudendal artery. See here. So, internal pudendal artery is the branch of anterior division of internal iliac artery. Now, let us see in brief the course. And here you can see this is the greater sciatic notch where it is traversing, and then it is passing towards the ischial spine and then reaching the lesser sciatic notch. Now, see here, this is again another schematic diagram to help you to understand the whole course. So, see here, this is related to ischial spine, dorsal aspect of ischial spine. It traverses the dorsal aspect of ischial spine, then passes to the lesser sciatic notch or foramen, and it enters to the in the Alcock's canal, that is also called as pudendal canal, and we have discussed that already. Those who want to give the answer, they can give the answers. That Alcock's canal is formed by, how is the Alcock's canal formed? It is formed by the separation of obturator fascia. It traverses via Alcock's canal, give inferior rectal branches, perineal branches and posterior perineal arteries here. It also gives scrotal branches, urethral and artery to the bulbar penis, the deep artery of the penis. So, all these branches are given by the internal pudendal artery as it is passing through the Alcock's canal and then coming out through the opening of Alcock's canal. Exact location of Alcock's canal is extension from lesser sciatic notch till the level of the apex of deep perineal pouch. So, it is extending from lesser sciatic notch to that of deep perineal pouch, that is the Alcock's canal, formed by the separation of obturator fascia. The structure passing is pudendal nerve and internal pudendal artery. Okay, so done with this. So, we have done with the question number 9th and we have seen the correct answer, that it is. So, in any of the course we have not seen that it is crossing ischial tuberosity. It is passing through the dorsal aspect. It is traversing through dorsal aspect of ischial spine, but not through ischial tuberosity. Let us move on to the next, that is question number 10th. Lateral sural nerve is a branch of which of the following nerve? Question number 10. Lateral sural nerve is a branch of femoral nerve, common fibular nerve, tibial nerve, obturator nerve, posterior cutaneous nerve of thigh. 5 options are there and you have to mark the correct answer. Question number 10. Lateral sural nerve. 15 seconds will be provided to you for marking its correct answer. Lateral sural nerve is a branch of. My dear aspirants, the correct answer is lateral one is a branch of common fibular nerve. So 10th, the correct answer is B, common fibular nerve. Actually, sural nerve is formed by medial and lateral sural component. Here the lateral one is a part of common, it's a branch from common fibular nerve. Let's see the explanation. We have got 2 types of sural nerve, one is the medial sural nerve and the other is the lateral sural nerve. So when we are talking about medial sural nerve, it is derived from tibial nerve. What is the source? It is derived from, it gets origin from the tibial nerve, and when we are talking about the lateral sural nerve, it is derived from common fibular nerve, common fibular nerve. And the 2 component, that is the medial and the lateral sural nerve, will combine together and unite to form the whole of the sural nerve. Let me show you this diagram where your concepts will be more cleared. So see here. We have seen here that this is the sciatic nerve which is giving its 2 terminal branches. One is the tibial nerve, another is common peroneal nerve. Tibial nerve will give innervation to the muscles of posterior aspect of the leg, and common peroneal nerve will traverses onto the lateral aspect along the neck of the fibula and then again divide into deep peroneal nerve, which will give innervation to anterior aspect of the leg region, anterior compartment of the leg, and the superficial peroneal nerve will give innervation to the lateral compartment of the leg. Now, from the tibial nerve, the nerve which is arising here is the medial sural nerve, and from the common peroneal component, the nerve which is arising is the lateral sural nerve. These 2 together forms the sural nerve, also having a communicating peroneal component. The sural nerve is giving innervation to the lateral aspect of the leg region, lateral aspect of the dorsum foot also. So this is the whole diagram which is showing that the origin of medial and lateral sural nerve is from tibial and common peroneal component. Okay, let's move on to question number 11th. The following are conditions which is related to carpal tunnel syndrome except. Means which of the following is least important for the confirmation of carpal tunnel syndrome. Skin over the thenar eminences is affected. Carpal tunnel syndrome is due to compression of median nerve. Fracture of the lunate bone can lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. It can be diagnosed by Froment sign. Question number 11, 4 options are there and you have to mark the correct answer. Your time starts now. 15 seconds for you. Okay, so the correct answer here is skin over the thenar eminences is affected. So actually this is not correct because the palmar cutaneous branch, of the median nerve is not traversing below the flexor retiniculum or transverse carpal ligament. So it will be not affected. Exactly the median nerve, the whole trunk of the median nerve is traversing below the transverse carpal ligament or the flexor retiniculum. So that component can be compressed but not its palmar cutaneous branch, because palmar cutaneous branch is traversing above and it is given above the level of the wrist or the carpal tunnel region. So it is least important for the carpal tunnel syndrome. Compression of median nerve is absolutely involved. Fracture of lunate bone can also, yes, fracture of lunate bone can also lead to later on to the median nerve, it's compressed. And Froment sign, as we know, Froment sign is directly for ulnar nerve injury presentation, and also it gives adductor hallucis muscle integrity. But my dear aspirants, as the role is also done by flexor pollicis longus is taking over the function here. So what I want to tell that if we have to choose one, then we will go with A as the correct option. So let me show you. Carpal tunnel syndrome is the reason where we have got compression of median nerve, and the skin over the thenar eminence is not affected. Please note, it is not affected, as the branch which is giving innervation to the skin over thenar eminences arises from the forearm itself. The one option was dislocation of the lunate bone. Actually, it falls, dislocation of lunate bone can be occurring from any fall of dorsiflexed hand when the elbow joint is flexed, and at times when the lunate bone is traversing more anteriorly, it can lead further to the carpal tunnel syndrome. So here also you can see this is the palmar cutaneous branch. So let me use green color. This is the palmar cutaneous branch which is traversing and also giving branch palmar cutaneous, which is passing above the level of flexor retiniculum, which is innervation to the palmar aspect of the palm of lateral aspect of the hand, but it will be not compressed when carpal tunnel syndrome happens. So let's move on to the next, that is MCQ number 12th. So all the best. So we have done with the 11th number MCQ. Let's move on to the 12th one. Yeah. Question number 12. All the best. Choose the incorrect statement about developing long bone. Which of the following is not a correct statement about the developing long bone? Question number 1. Option A, growth occurs maximum at the metaphysis. Metaphysis is the epiphyseal end of diaphysis. Osteoprogenitor cells divides to form osteoblast, which become osteocytes later. Havration system and Volkmann canal are developing in diaphysis or the parts of diaphysis. So you have to tell me which is the incorrect statement about the developing long bone. A, B, C, D is the option and you have to choose the one correct answer. Your time begins now. "15 seconds will be given to you to mark the correct answer. So my dear aspirants, the correct answer is actually growth occurs at maximum at the metaphysis. That is absolutely wrong. What is the area? Those who want to give the answer, they can give me the answer. The maximum growth is occurring at the epiphyseal plate. Epiphyseal plate will be the right answer. Maximum growth occurs at the epiphyseal plate. Metaphysis is the epiphyseal end of diaphysis, is absolutely right. Yes. Osteoprogenitor cell, yes, the osteoprogenitor cells is acting as a stem cells and it can give rise to osteoblasts, will later get matrix formation and mature to form osteocytes. And absolutely right, Havration system and Volkmann system is the structure which is seen in the diaphysis part of the compact bone. So yes, absolutely right. Only the A option is not correct. All other options are perfectly correct. Let me show the image for you. So yes, my dear aspirants, see here. Okay, so these are the parts of the bone which is showing. Inner part of the bone is containing marrow and diaphysis part of the bone is the strong part which is made of the compact bone, which will have the Havration system, Havration canal in the center, lacunae, osteocytes residing. You can see ends of the bones are the epiphysis. This is the metaphysis, which is the epiphyseal end for the diaphysis. Diaphysis is the shaft part of the long growing bone, and the maximum growth is occurring at the epiphyseal end of the bone, epiphyseal plate. When the epiphyseal plate fuses, it forms epiphyseal line and further growth is not active, not possible. Actually, Yeah, and the metaphysis of the bone is containing many of the metacapillary loop, which is having a loop system. So its metaphysis is the site where entrapment of any kind of infection can occur. So it can lead to osteomyelitis in this region. So yes, we have done with this and we have got A as the correct answer. Let's move on to the next question, number 13. Yeah. So let me read the option nicely. A patient is diagnosed, question number 13. A patient is diagnosed as having venous anomaly of posterior spinal vein, which have been enlarged, putting pressure on the spinal cord. In order to expose the vein, the surgeon will have to put through the incision, and the incision through the skin, subcutaneous tissue, deep back muscles in an order. So what would be the incision order which has to be done by the surgeon if he want to locate the anomaly of posterior spinal vein? So the structure sequence is given. We have got A option, lamina, ligamentum flavum, posterior longitudinal ligament or epidural space, then the dura, subarachnoid or arachnoid, and then the subarachnoid and the pia. B is the pedicles will be penetrated, and then the further sequence as written, lamina, ligamentum flavum. So please, what you can do, you can read the option. I will give you 30 seconds. Don't worry about that. Please read the option A, B, C, D nicely, and you can give me the right answer. What would be the exact sequence of the structure being penetrated? Question number 13, mark the correct answer. So the sequences, actually the correct answer and the correct sequence will be C, lamina, then the ligamentum flavum connecting the adjacent lamina, epidural space, dura, after epidural space, dura, subarachnoid space, then the arachnoid, subarachnoid space, and lastly is the pia mater. This is how the sequence of the structures will be penetrated. Not the pedicles, pedicle is not involved, so clearly it is not the right answer. And posterior longitudinal ligament was present in A, so that would be also not right. So we have to choose C as the correct answer. Let me give you the further explanation. The surgeon wants to remove all the covering of the spinal cord, and then he will be able to reach the vein on the posterior surface of the cord. So what does that mean? The surgeon could remove the lamina. The first thing is that he have to remove the lamina, a broad flat plate of the bone. The exact location of this broad flat plate of the bone is exactly between the transverse process and the spinous process of the vertebra. The surgeon could not remove the pedicles as it is a very strong process which is extending posteriorly, and from the posterolateral aspect of the vertebral body, it will connect. The pedicle is actually the part of the vertebra which is connecting the body and the transverse process. So the surgeon has to not go removing such a strong structure and extend so posteriorly. The pedicle too far deep in the back to be removed. So it's very difficult for the surgeons to remove, and why to go so deep in the back. Okay, the surgeon could now pass through ligamentum flavum, which is elastic ligament, and we know that ligamentum flavum is joining the adjacent vertebra laminae. So yes, that can be penetrated. Ligamentum flavum can be penetrated. So now moving on to the next. The surgeons could remove the coverings of spinal cord and associated structures like just now we have seen, yes, ligamentum flavum will be penetrated, epidural space will be approached, then the dura, subdural space, arachnoid, subarachnoid space, and ultimately leading the spinal cord pia mater. The one of the option which I struck it off, what's the posterior longitudinal ligament? Actually, this is also extending through posterolateral aspect. So no need to penetrate the posterior longitudinal ligament. Okay. So this is how the correct sequence is approached, and with this explanation we are clearly knowing that C option sequence is the most correct answer. So we will go with C option. So we will go with C option. lamina, ligamentum flavum, epidural space, dura, subdural space, arachnoid and the subarachnoid space. This is exactly the correct sequence of the structure being penetrated for reaching the posterior aspect of the spinal cord and approaching the spinal veins. Okay, let's move on to the next question number 14. The police department found a skull without mandible bone. So actually mandible bone is having so many features which will have some features of male and female. So without mandible, only the skull is there. They delivered the skull to the forensic team for investigation, and the forensic expert told that the skull belongs to a male. What do you think helped him to confirm the gender of the person? A well-marked superciliary arch, a well-marked frontal tuber, presence of supraorbital notch, presence of eye known. Question number 14. You have to mark the correct answer. 4 options are there. So your time starts now. Mark the correct answer. The most correct answer which will help the police department to know that and also the forensic team will help the police department to know the gender. My dear aspirant, the most correct answer is A well-marked superciliary arch. This will help us to know the gender of the person. So let me explain all the options. Superciliary arch, I will show you the skull also, and where we can see the rounded curved elevation. Actually it's a rounded curved elevation on the above the medial aspect of the orbit here, and it's overlies the frontal sinus, and it's better marked in males. So what is very important for you to know, that it is more prominent and better marked in males as compared to that of females. So we have chosen this as the correct answer. What about the other option? Option B is not right. Why? Frontal tuber or eminences is low rounded elevation above the superciliary arch, and it is more prominent in case of females and children. So it is not the right answer. Okay. Supraorbital notch is also a foramen which is present in both of male and female, and it is not very convenient that you can mark male and female by supraorbital notch. Exactly, the notch is present at the junction of lateral 2/3 and medial 1/3 here. So it is also not an important feature for comparing male and female. So see here, this elevated area which you are seeing is the supraciliary arch, which is more prominent in case of males. So this is more prominent feature for guiding us the bone of which gender. So we will go with supraciliary arch. Option D is eye known, and we know that eye known is also present in both males and female. What is eye known? What is eye known? Actually, it's a most prominent part on the external occipital protuberance from where the nuchal lines are diverging. So actually, external occipital protuberance is a prominence which is formed at the lower aspect of normal occipitalis, and a most prominent point or the most elevated point which is lying on this prominent part, that is external occipital protuberance, is called as eye known. This is the area, this is exact location where we mark the junction of head and neck region, and it's the most prominent part of this EOP, external occipital protuberance, is called as eye known. So yes, with this we have got clearly the best answer here will be the superciliary arches, which will give us the idea that if it is more prominent, then it is the skull of male. Let's move on to the next, that is question number 15. Regarding the skin cleavage lines, which is also called as Langer lines, all of the following statements are false except the direction of Langer lines on the chest and abdomen is vertical. So please read the question very nicely. Regarding skin cleavage line called as Langer lines, all of the following statements are false except. So please be clear about the grammar here. The incision made parallel to the lines result in gapping of the wound and the prominent scar formation. Lines are formed due to variable thickness of epidermis. Incision is made at right angle and across the line, resulting in gapping of the wounds and leading to the formation of thick scar formation. So, what according to you is true? Exactly the word all of the following are false except. That means the MCQ is targeting the correct or the true statement. The MCQ is targeting the correct or the true statement. So, you have to give me the correct answer. Your time starts now, 15 seconds for you. All the best. So, my dear aspirants, the correct answer for question number 15 is incision is made at right angle. When the incision is not in the line of Langer lines is not the reticular fibers we know is lying there in the dermis, and because of the contraction collagen fibers distribution we have got Langer lines in our body. So, if the incision or surgical line is not given exactly at the direction of Langer lines, it is at right angle perpendicular to the Langer lines, what will be the resultant? It will result in gapping of the wounds and formation of thick scar tissue or scar formation. So, D is absolutely correct. All other options are wrong. So, let me tell you the answer here. When the incision is made along the line or parallel to the line of the Langer lines, these incision line do not gap much. Healing is best, leave very minimal. Healing is best and also gapping of the wound is less, fine and minimal scar formation is there. So, that means cosmetic surgical result or surgically it is more acceptable. But exactly the opposite what happens when the incision is given at right angle to the Langer lines or the collagen fiber. What I told you, Langer lines are due to the direction orientation of the collagen fibers. The healing is prolonged, incision will gap is more and the thick scar tissue formation will be there, and this is not cosmetically accepted. It is not cosmetically very great. Scar tissue formation is more, just the reverse. Now here I just want to show you the direction. So see here, यहाँ पे आप देखो abdomen, upper aspect of the abdomen and the chest, you can see it's horizontal. What was written in the option? The direction of Langer lines on the chest and abdomen is vertical. Wrong. What you can see, the direction is horizontally only in the abdomen. Incision parallel to the result in gapping and prominent. Wrong. It is less gapping. Lines are variable to the variable epidermis. No, it is depending on the collagen fibers, not on the epidermis thickness and all. Okay, so yes, my dear aspirants, before ending the session, I would like to tell you, those who want to see the free sessions of mine, special free sessions on the platform of Unacademy Saturday evening. So, Saturday evening, and one of the session will be at 11 p.m. also. All the Saturday evening and Sunday afternoon, I am going to take the free special platform. So, 6 sessions will be there. So, all of you just know 6 sessions will be there, and all the timings and the links will be provided on Let's Crack NEET PG platform. Let's Crack NEET PG platform में सारे links provided होंगे. Students who are watching the session for the first time, what they can do, they can download the Unacademy app and they can use the code ANAT10 to unlock and be present for the session. So, Saturdays and Sunday, that is 30th October and 31st October is the day of special free sessions targeting anatomy MCQ session. That is, it not just begins that we will solve just MCQ, we will have our concepts clear and most important MCQs will be discussed. Okay, so do present for this session, download the Unacademy app and use, find the goal as NEET PG, use the code ANAT10 to unlock. And also I want to tell the students who want to take the subscription, they can use my code. So they can use the code ANAT10. So I want to tell the students, those who want to take the session or subscription of Unacademy for targeting all 19 subjects in a very systematic way, so that they can approach to their goal more closer. So they can take the subscription either Iconic or they can go for a plus course, and they can get 10% discount by using the code ANAT10. Got it everyone? And my dear aspirants, what I want to tell that before ending the session, I also want to tell you about the special free session, one of the most important point is that that you can download the Unacademy, you can download the PDF notes. And tomorrow is Friday, so before ending the session, Friday is the day when I am going to take one more. So this was the afternoon, but it's the 6 p.m. I am taking 50 images anatomy MCQ session in a continuation, 50 images. So it will be a session of 2.5 or 3 hours. So do present for this session. We will solve 50 most important image based questions of anatomy, and we will target our examination. All the best, keep studying, subscribe, do like and share. Let's crack NEET PG platform and be present for 6 p.m. session live for 50 anatomy MCQ session. All the best, keep studying. Thank you so much. Thank you. We will again meet at 6 p.m. and on Saturday and Sunday with the free anatomy sessions on the platform of Unacademy. Thank you. All the best. Thank you.